of that. Ephesians chapter 2, I'm going to be there in just a moment. I started a series last week called Seeds and Seasons. If you didn't get a chance, if you weren't here, you can watch on our Facebook page, YouTube, our podcast. It's kind of the foundational message for this series, so maybe you get a chance to listen to that. We talked last week about the different seasons that you experience, like when you plant a garden, spring, but we talked about the spring season to us. Biblically is about planting, risk, faith, vision, timing, investment. We talked about the summer season. We walked through a summer season that's about growth and removing unnecessary things in our life. We talked about the fall season when we see the fruit of our planting, all of the effort, is starting to bear fruit and celebration. We talked about the winter season of our life, that winter is for rest, prayer, evaluation, dreaming, and letting some things die in winter. So if you missed that, you can catch up with that. This morning, I'm going to talk about life seasons, some different life seasons this morning, a little differently from last week. Our theme verse is Ecclesiastes 3:1. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity when we under heaven. So when we're saved, there's a destiny, there's a call, there's a plan, there's a purpose that God has for our life. And as we get older and kind of walk through, we will find different seasons of our life that kind of bring into fullness the plan that God has for our life. And there's a plan for us even before we ever know it, before we're aware of it. Ephesians 2 says, "For it is by grace you have been saved through faith." Some of you know this passage. This is not from yourselves. It is the gift of God, not by works, so that no one could boast. For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus, to do good works which God prepared in advance for us to do so. So, from this passage, we see that God saves us. There's a spiritual purpose for our life. And then the next part of that, we are His handiwork. So once we're saved, we go in the wood shop. And He starts working on us and forming and fashioning us through different life seasons that we go through, different experiences that we have. God starts working on us. We are His handiwork, and that we are created in Christ Jesus to do good works. God created us for that. All right, so remember that passage. I'm going to come back to it because I want to talk to you about the first life season that I want to mention this morning, and it is the season of preparation. The season of preparation. God is about to launch you in to your created purpose until He has prepared you to succeed in that purpose. He's not just going to throw you out and expect good works, hold you accountable without a season of preparation in your life. So let's look at that. The season of preparation is a season of learning and growth for you to be used in a greater way by God in the future. So it's a season of growth and learning so that you can be used in a greater way by God sometime in the future. So that season of preparation occurs in several different ways. There are times in that season of preparation that the Holy Spirit is speaking to us. He's showing us things. He's opening His Word. He's speaking to us and revealing things to us through that season of preparation. There's also there's academics. You might be in school. You might be learning. Might be a college student, a high school student. God can prepare us for the next season through academics and school, life experiences. He prepares us with different life experiences that we have. We learn things that are teaching us for the next phase of our life. And then there's also failure. He teaches us through failures. So the season of preparation, man, is an important part because God's got a destiny and purpose for everyone here. So let's talk about the season of preparation for a moment. And I want to give you two examples, and we'll kind of follow these men's journey throughout this message. But let's look at Joseph, and then we'll look at David. Let's look at their season of preparation. Now, Joseph, from the outset, Joseph was created by God for an event that came later in his life. He was going to be like the vice president of Egypt, the prime minister, the number 2 person, not just to serve there, but at a very crucial time because Egypt was about to go through a famine. So Joseph's created purpose ultimately at the end was that. But his season of preparation took him completely different than than political office, the pathway of political office. So when he's 17, you know the story, his brothers sold him. They threw him in a hole and they sold him, all right? God started working his season of preparation when he was 17. So I just want to say to everyone here today, if you're middle school, high school, especially if you're 15, 16, 17, 18, or older, God may already be working your season of preparation. You are at the prime age now when God will begin to speak to you. Maybe God begins to show you, or you enter into a season of preparation for something that God has in store for you later on. So, you know the story. He's put in the hole. He's sold into slavery, so they buy him. His brothers sell him, so he goes and he starts working in a government official's house in Egypt. He's kind of a servant. He's dusting and sweeping and mopping and doing food and working in the kitchen and all that kind of stuff. And eventually they see how good he's doing, so they make him, kind of the head servant, which is still terrible because he's not free. All right, he's still an indentured servant. He can't go on his own. And you know this story, man. He's serving one day. Potiphar's wife makes an advance. He says no to her. He gets put in jail for attempted rape. He gets put in like the worst jail ever for years. Man, that's his season of preparation. Sometimes the season of preparation is not a pleasant season at all. He's got a pathway, sometimes our pathway to where we want to go looks like the opposite. We're headed the opposite direction, but you just need to trust the Lord in that. So that's his season of preparation. David's was a little bit different. David came from a family that might have had some means, and David was a shepherd. Now this wasn't like a roaming petting zoo at all. This was part of the family business. They were, he had to make money off this wool and cheese and meat and goat's milk and all that comes from being a shepherd. But man, you just got to admit it's not very exciting being a shepherd. You got to keep track of the sheep each day, make sure they're fed and taken care of, and there's not a lot of excitement that goes with that, but it was part of God's preparation for him in the future. Now, David, at this point, he has no idea. He has no idea what his ultimate journey is. So one day they say, David, come inside. Your dad wants to see you. And he goes in the living room, and standing in front of him is the prophet Samuel. If that had been me, I'd have known I was in trouble. If the prophet is in your living room, that's bad news. That's bad news. What have I done? And the prophet walks over to David. He takes a bottle of oil, and he says, today God is anointing you King of Israel. And he pours the oil over his head. And the Bible says in that moment that the Spirit of God came upon David. So they're standing there in that living room, man, watching this scene of what's happening at David. God's presence is everywhere. And at that moment, David knew with clarity kind of what his purpose was going to be. He was going to be king of Israel. Now, it did not happen at that moment. So let me say, some of you might be like Joseph. You don't know where you're headed in your season of preparation, all right? And some may be like Joseph, where you have a sense of God's plan and direction, a plan and direction for your life. But I want to say, too, that it took David almost 14 more years from the moment that the oil came upon him in his father's house until he actually became king. So I want to say, in your season of preparation, sometimes you may know what is coming, but it's not for right now, but it's for you to know what's around the corner for you to prepare yourself. All right? So they're in this season of of preparation. So let me just ask you, are you in a season of preparation? Now, that doesn't mean that you're young, because the way life cycles are, seasons of preparation can come even when we're older. God is going to release us into something a little bit later in our life, but he needs to prepare us for that, and we might be a little bit older. So are you in a season of preparation? Are you preparing now for something that you feel like is in your heart, but you haven't yet seen the open door for that? Now, I know some are ready to move on. Listen, because once we kind of know God's plan and purpose for our life, we are ready to move at that moment, but you don't need to push through that door because you're not ready yet. You're not ready yet. So don't rush through this season. So let me say, like, to our teenagers and college students, definitely you are in a season of preparation. Some of you may already know kind of what you want to do. It might be already revealed to you. Some of you don't have any idea, but that doesn't matter, necessarily at this point. But you got to know that God is working in your life in this particular season. So let me just say a couple of things really quick to our young people, then I'll move on. So like right now is a really important time for you to really be sharpening your faith and getting close to God and hearing God's voice. Some of the most important decisions you will make in your life will be done in the next 10 years. And if you ever need to hear and know God's plan, will, and purpose, it is right now, okay? That's not for later. That's for now. You need to be really kind of sharpening your relationship with God. You need to really be working on your academics. Now, you think your parents told me to say that, didn't you? But I'm just telling you, it's really important as you're preparing yourself vocationally that you are excelling at that. That is a way, man, that God can use you when you excel in your academics. Now, let me just say, hey, you just need to do as well as you can as you're going through school. And then also, can I say something as far as season of preparation? Man, you need to listen to everything your parents say about life and godliness. Now, I know you think your parents gave me that. But I want to tell you, they're just not here to give you food and shelter. But they're there to share life experiences with you and to help you in your faith walk. And, man, this is a season of preparation for you, because right around the corner, like when you get out of college, life all changes. And, man, you need those three things. You need your faith, you need your academics, and you need your family blessing upon you to kind of move you into that next season. Now, let me just speak to everybody, because I said, let's don't rush through this season. In school, especially in college, they judge you by your GPA. Your GPA, your grade point average, all right? And they can tell, employers can tell based on your GPA, they interpret a GPA that you have grabbed and learned as much as you can out of that particular experience. Okay, now let me just say, I'm the poster child for the 2.0. So let me just say, if you're a solid C student or lower, God still loves us and God still has a plan for us. And all my C students said amen. That was a lot more than I thought. But the GPA is a way that they can assess whether you got the quality out of this. And I just want to say, if we're in a season of preparation, we don't want to walk through this with a 2.0. If we're in a season of preparation, if we're in the handiwork stage of what God is doing and preparing in our heart, we just don't want to kind of rush through that and slop through that. So, because when God releases us into whatever we're planning, we want to be ready for that. We want to grab all that we can through that, so we don't rush through this season. If you're in a season of preparation, one day you'll understand the season. Right now, you don't. Some of you don't know what that ultimate kind of goal is. You're kind of like Joseph. You're just working through life going, God, what's going on in my life? Some of you are like David. You know where you're headed. You know where you're headed. But I want to tell you, you'll kind of really get the fullness of this season, one day. So David was a shepherd for over 14 years. And that's just got to be, look, after about 6 months, I just think you've grabbed all that you can grab out of that job, right? Counting the sheep. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say you got 100 sheep. You count them every day. You're moving them around. You're stepping in stuff, walking behind the sheep. God, because there comes a point where we just feel a little overqualified. God, I've just learned everything I can. What are you doing? I don't understand this season of preparation. Okay? But then there's a day that the light bulb goes on. And that day occurred for David. What's all this shepherding? What's all of this got to do, Lord, with where I'm going? There was a day that it just kind of all exploded and the light bulb goes on. And he starts writing this. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. And when I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will not fear because you are with me. All that experience, those years of serving as a shepherd, they just exploded in his heart. And God taught him a great truth from the season that he was in. Joseph, Genesis chapter 50, fast forwarding. He's standing before his family. He's standing there with, as the vice president of Egypt. And he makes this statement. He says to his brothers, you intended to harm me, but God intended for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. I want to tell you, there's a day that you'll look back and you'll kind of get all of this. There's a day that you'll grasp all that God is doing. That may not be in this moment now. Be faithful where you're at, but there's a day that you'll kind of get that. And then just one other thing about the season of preparation. Don't compare your season and the seasons of others. You see, you don't know what God is doing and speaking in other people's lives. You don't know. You don't know their journey. So sometimes we're in the season of preparation and we look at somebody else who's in the season of promotion. And we're going, hey, God, that's not fair. We're envious. We're bitter. We're jealous. But you don't know what that other individual's walked through. You don't know what God has told them. You don't know what's going on in the season of their life. So I have just learned it's better for me to keep my head down and my mouth shut and just pay attention to what God has set in front of me and not to worry about the other seasons that people are walking in, because it will only confuse you. You don't know what God has said to them. You don't know what God is doing in their particular life. Also, different seasons of preparation look different to different people. So if you're kind of like Joseph, he had no idea. All of this stuff's going on. He has no idea God's plan. But David had a sense of God's plan. Joseph started really rough. David didn't start really that tough. So you just gotta know that even different preparation seasons are different for different people. You just gotta make sure that the handiwork that God is doing in your life, that He accomplishes it, all that He wants to do. Don't worry about anybody else. Comparison won't help you, I promise. Comparison won't help you. Let's look at another life season. Let's look at this. Season of preparation. The next one is the season of promotion. The season of promotion is a season of advancement and open doors. It's when the new job comes that you've wanted. It's when you walk across the stage and you get that diploma and you're so happy, and then 6 months later all of the student loan bills come in. But it's just part of the graduation process. Or it's a new ministry door that has opened, or another open door. It is the season of promotion, advancement, and open doors. All of a sudden, man, and it can happen quickly. So Joseph, he's in prison one day. He's not in the Leon County Jail. He's like in the worst prison that you could ever get. It's like rotting flesh. There's no sewer anywhere. Rotting food. It is humid. It is hot. It is in Egypt. People were just dying here just because of the conditions. He's been in there for 2 years. He's been living in these conditions. And then all of a sudden they come get him one day. And they bring him right in front of the king. And there he stands in these stinking prison clothes and sweat and smell and looked terrible, smelled terrible. And Pharaoh asked him, hey, do you know the answer to the dream that I have? And you know the story. He knew the answer. He knew he was able to interpret the dream. And in a moment, Pharaoh said, you know what? Now you are in charge. You're in charge of the whole. I'll put the whole land of Egypt. Pharaoh, in that moment, took his signet ring, which is kind of the seal, and he put it on Joseph, which meant any legal document in Egypt, Joseph could just kind of put that signet ring on, and man, it was law. They started wiping him down and taking those stinking prison clothes off, and they put fine royal linen on him, and they put a gold chain upon him. They took a chariot ride, and Joseph's chariot was number 2, only behind Pharaoh's. And Pharaoh said, I am Pharaoh, and without your word, no one will lift a hand or foot in all of Egypt. Boom, that quickly. The season of promotion can come upon you very quickly. I mean, one moment he's a prisoner, the other, man, he's in his season of promotion. David was a little different. David, they were fighting Saul's army, and he was with some of the leaders of Israel, and all of a sudden, the messenger comes in to David and those are assembled, and they said, Saul has been killed. Saul has been killed. And in just one moment, things changed for David. People that was his buddies maybe just started backing up. Just started being quiet because they knew David was the next king. One of the leaders of Israel went over, and they took oil and they poured it on his head. And in that moment, the season of preparation was over, and now they were in the season of promotion. Have you ever kind of been through that? You got the new job. You got the open door. Man, it feels great. The season of promotion is a wonderful, it's a wonderful season. Can I just remind you this morning, that God is preparing you for something. Some of you think, I have been in the season of preparation like for years. God is not, got you in the workshop forever. There is something that He's working in your life that you can do for His glory. And there's going to be a day that you're going to leave the workshop and you're going to walk into the call or the purpose that God has for you. And can I tell you, it feels great. It feels great when you walk into that season of promotion. But let me say something to you about your season of promotion. Your season of promotion is not a vacation or a coronation, but it will be one of the most challenging seasons of your life. So here's Joseph. He's just now adjusting to the new robes, the fine food. He's got servants. He's got people serving him. And then all of a sudden, the reason that he's in that job, the famine hits. Remember, he's supposed to store up all the grain because there was a famine coming. And now all the fun, the big, the enjoying of the season of promotion is now over because now people are dying of starvation. And he's got to do his job. He's got to do it well. David, from the moment they poured oil over him, David became involved in a war with Saul's family. And it was months before he ever saw the palace. So I just want to remind you that your season of promotion is not a season of vacation. It's not a coronation, but it will be one of the most challenging seasons of your life. I told you last week a little of my journey, my winter season of my life. I've been in youth ministry, and I love students. Once you love a student, you always love a student. But I just felt like it was my season, the pastor, and I told you I'd kind of laid out on paper what I felt like, God was saying what I wanted my first church to look like. And sure enough, man, not long after that, Becky and I, we load the U-Haul up. She was like 7 months pregnant. We moved to Kentucky. God called us to Kentucky. And I really thought, I loved youth ministry. And let me just tell you, God can use you in your season of preparation. Okay, God can use you there, but He's got something else in store. So I loved youth ministry, and enjoyed that season. But I felt like God was leading me to something else. So I get to the church, and really, my philosophy as a pastor, it was this, that if you just have great worship, preaching, and altar services, then everything else will kind of work itself out. And that was just kind of my philosophy. Let's just have good services, and man, everything else will just kind of just fall into place. But even though I had walked through the door of promotion, I was not prepared fully for that moment. So I just started after about a year in, I had this job that I wanted. I felt like God had created me for, but I just felt like I was failing. I didn't feel like I was prepared. My leadership skills were not developed. And I realized, because leadership is about, perceiving vision and communicating vision. Leadership is about, pulling together a team, communicating a team, equipping them and releasing them. And I didn't have any of those skills and managerial skills. You got calendars, man. You got a church organization that you got to run. And let me just tell you something. You may have a great service on Sunday morning, but man, you better have some diapers in that nursery. If you don't, people don't appreciate that. I had preached my 5 good sermons 25 different ways. And I'm going, wow, man, how do you preach to the same group long term? Man, the church considered me pastor, but the government looked at me as the president of a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. I had no idea what I was doing there. No idea. Money, man, I had no plan for finance. How do you fund vision? How do you make sure your ministries are funded? What's the proper way that you protect money? I had no plan. And I want to tell you, man, there was a season that I just felt like I was gonna fail. God had put me into this place, but man, I was just looking, going, man, I'm terrible. God, why did you put me in this place? I should be back in youth ministry. I don't know anything. You know what? Can I just tell you something? When you get your season of promotion and you're looking, going, man, what is going on? Can I just tell you something? If you'll let it, the fear of failure can be your best friend. If you'll let it, the fear of failure can be your best friend. Because I was like, God, you've given me this opportunity, and I don't want to blow it. And I'm looking, man, I don't have the skills to sustain or succeed. You know what? So I just got busy. I knew some areas that I needed to grow. So like I'd go to the bookstore, and I bought every leadership book John Maxwell had ever put out. I'd read my Bible because I needed to develop and improve when it came to leadership and management of an organization. I went to every kind of leadership seminar that I could go to. I'd be on the front row. I'm taking notes. I'm asking questions. I'm the pesky guy that when the class is over, you go and ask more questions and you write down, because I didn't want to fail. I went to people who had preached at their church for a long period of time. And how do you preach over a period of years and still engage people? You can't, when you've blown out all your good stuff, what's next for the second, third, and fourth year? Taking notes on that. I went and talked to financial people about church business and organization and finance, just trying to improve myself and improve my skills. Because I want to tell you something. Some of you think your season of promotion is a vacation or a coronation, but in actuality, it'll be one of the most challenging seasons of your life. God gives you that opportunity, because I didn't want to fail. There was a time that I just thought, man, I don't know that I can do this on this level. I may be doing lock-ins and going to camp the rest of my life. I didn't want to fail. I don't know if you've ever heard of this group here before. The group name is called the Baja Men. And they wrote the American musical classic, Who Let the Dogs Out? Brent's got it on his playlist over here. But they're classified, as they do some musicians, as one-hit wonders. They had one hit, but they never sustained it. In the NFL, when you get drafted in the first round, that's a huge opportunity. But do you know that, most NFL players, they don't last over 3 years. They're out. They're gone. They don't have another opportunity. Do you know most businesses, new businesses, 9 out of 10 of them fail? Forbes magazine, 9 out of 10 of them fail. Now, here's what's going on. That season of promotion, you get that opportunity. But unless you're willing to work hard and see places that you're weak and try to improve yourself, whatever God gives you, you'll be the one-hit wonder. But when God opens that door, it's great. It's a blessing. But it's the greatest challenge that you will ever have in your life. And you've got to match that opportunity with perspiration and wanting to do something great for God in your life. That season of promotion. Ecclesiastes says, the axe is dull and its edge unsharpened. More strength is needed, but skill will bring success. All right? You want to work harder or you want to work smarter? Okay, that comes from Ecclesiastes. So when you have that opportunity, it's not just a time to sit back and enjoy. Man, it can be a really challenging thing, but if you learn those skills, man, you can be sustained and be successful in that place of promotion for a long period of time. Let me give you the last life season. Season of preparation, season of promotion. How about the season of affliction? The season of affliction. The season of affliction can be a season of persecution, sickness, consequences of our own poor choices, and unusual happenings that I don't understand. Both of these gentlemen went through a season of affliction. Joseph, his season of affliction was caused by the unfair treatment of other people. I mean, his brothers treated him terrible and set him off on a life course where he wound up, in jail, all right? So his season of affliction was unfair treatment by others. David, his season of affliction came because of the consequences of his own sin. David walked and did some things, and man, there was some harsh things that happened in David's life, but he made poor choices along the way. Job, as Keith Hall preached a couple of weeks ago, Job had to deal with some of this stuff that you have to deal with. Lord, what's going on? Well, I don't even understand. Why is all this happening? What did I do? What did I not do? Job's wrestling kind of, with unusual things that he doesn't understand. Epaphroditus. The church sent him to serve Paul while Paul was in jail. Epaphroditus goes and he's visiting Paul in jail. He's taking him food, and all of a sudden Epaphroditus gets sick. I mean, literally, like deathly ill. Paul had to write and go, hey, Epaphroditus he's on death's door here. And what did he do? He's just serving. He's just doing what the church and others had asked. Can I just tell you something? When you walk through a season of affliction and we can ignore it and act like it doesn't happen, and we don't want to discuss it because it doesn't fit in our theology, but I just want to tell you, there are times in your life you walk through very difficult places that we don't even understand. All right? But Lamentations 3:3, I just want to remind you. It says, for he does not willingly bring affliction or grief to anyone. God is not up there just dispensing misery to people, okay? That's not God's nature, God's plan for our life, all right? When we have that season of affliction, can I just remind you of a few things? Have this season of affliction, God is working in you. In that season of affliction, God is working in you. Look at this passage. In all of this, you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you've had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ has been revealed. So he says, man, there are times that you walk in your life and you've got all kinds of trials. There are all kinds of things happening. But he said part of this is that it is working out the genuineness of your faith. See, anybody can just say, I love Jesus and I'm a follower of Jesus. But man, when affliction and infirmity, and you start walking through a tough time, man, that really reveals the genuineness of your confession to of your faith. And it also says it is of greater worth than gold. It's of a greater currency than we understand when we walk through a season of affliction. Now, there are questions. I get it. When we walk through seasons of affliction, Lord, what's going on? What's happening? I don't understand. There are always questions, but I just want to tell you something. Sometimes we walk through that season, we don't know the answer. But God's working in our life. The season of affliction, if I let it, can change my worship. It can change my compassion for others. It can change my prayer life. It can change my dependency upon God. And he says when you stand at the end, when you've walked through a season of affliction, when you stand before Jesus at the end and you've walked through that season, there's a reward for you when you stand in the presence of Jesus. So God is working in you, but God is using you at the same time. He's using you. Philippians 1 said, I want you to know, brothers and sisters, what has happened to me. He's in jail. Has actually served to advance the gospel. As a result, it's become clear through the whole palace guard and to everyone that I am in chains. And because of my chains, most of the brothers and sisters have become confident in the Lord and dare all the more to proclaim the gospel without fear. Can I say to you, what is happening to you is not necessarily all about you, but God is using you to advance the kingdom through this season that you're walking in. So he said, the palace guards, they're aware. I mean, listen, look, if I'm a prisoner, I'm not sure what kind of good prisoner I would be. I'd be the whiny kind of prisoner. This food's terrible. I hate this place. I hate you. I want out. Where's my lawyer? But you know what? The palace guards, they walked by and they heard him worshiping. They heard him praying. They didn't see an angry man that was bitter. And the palace guards were impacted in his life through his season of affliction. Also, the church heard of what was going on in his life. And man, the church became bold because of what was going on, what was going on in Paul's life. So what is happening to you may not be all about you, but God is using you in this season of affliction for his glory. All right? Phil Hansen, he's an artist, freehand artist, gone to school, making a living, making a name for himself as an artist. Freehand, draw, very creative, very imaginative. He did this for years. One day he goes in to his studio and he starts to draw, and he realizes he has a tremor in his hand. He's got a shake. And he's trying to draw, and he can't, because of this shake in his hand, he can't do what he normally did. He goes to the neurologist and they do tests, and they say, listen, we got bad news. Unfortunately, you've got nerve damage in your shoulder, in your elbow, your wrist, and hands. There's nothing that we can do. You'll always have this shake, this tremor, and eventually it will get worse. Well, I mean, it was devastating. If you're an artist, if that's the way you make your living, I mean, what do you do? He went home. He quit his job, but he didn't really have a choice. He could not do what he had normally done. So he drops out of school. Students that he had, I'm done. I mean, it's kind of a life-defining moment. I can't draw. Worship team, you can come. He goes back to the doctor, and he said, look, there's got to be something that you can do. There's got to be some plan. There's got to be some purpose in this. And the doctor says, no, I mean, there's nothing that we can do. He said, but there's something that you can do. He said, you can embrace the shake. What? Embrace the shake. What you're going through now, it may change where you're at, but it doesn't have to define the rest of your life. Embrace the shake. Embrace the shake. Embrace the shake. He goes back to the studio. He grabs the pen, and there's that tremor, almost circular. But he's got a different concept. He's got a different idea. And he starts to draw using the shake. And here's one of his first art pieces that he did, embracing the shake. He started to learn, listen to me, he started to learn that even though I've got this shake, I gotta, my purpose is not over. My destiny is not defined. I gotta find another way to do this. And if you go online, he learned to do art with karate, put paint on the edge of his hands, and he would chop a canvas. Unbelievable. He does artwork on bananas. I don't know how that works or if that's even profitable. I mean, you've only got like 6 days to sell it, and then it's a snack. But it's unbelievable. He takes pens and he does artwork on bananas. So I'm just telling you, if you're in your season of affliction, doesn't mean things are over for you. Things may be changing right now, but it doesn't mean things are over, because using the neurology term, we're going to embrace the shake. We're going to embrace the shake. God, wherever you've got me, whatever I'm doing right now, use me for your glory. God, show me, speak to me, use me for your glory. Romans chapter 12 says, if you're in this season of affliction, be joyful in hope. We don't lose our hope that one day the season of affliction is going to pass. We're joyful in our hope. All right? Patient in affliction. It's kind of a contradiction of words, right? We want to rush through affliction. Patient, joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer. And I want to tell you, if you're going through a season of affliction, I'm just telling you, you can embrace the shake with Romans chapter 12. Joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. There are all kinds of different life seasons that we go through, life cycles. Seasons of preparation that are challenging, seasons of promotion that are challenging, seasons of affliction. You know what? But I just want to say, God is God of all of them. God hasn't forgotten us. God's hand is upon us. His eye has not strayed from us. His plan and His destiny for our life has not changed at all, regardless of what I'm going through right now. Amen. Would you stand? In a moment, they're going to sing. I just want to challenge you this morning. If you're a student, I'm just praying. I know God's going to do something great in your life. I'm praying. Maybe you're like David. Maybe you kind of have a sense of that direction. Maybe you're like Joseph. You don't at this particular time. But, man, I'm going to pray. And in a moment when we sing, man, if you're junior high, senior high, or college age, would you just come down to the front? I just want to pray over you. I just want to have a season of prayer over you this morning. Maybe some of you are unsure about your life season. You're unsure what's going on. Man, God, what's happening in my life? When we sing in a moment, if you want special prayer, we're going to open the altars. Maybe some of you need direction. You need clarity. God, what's happening in my life? Maybe some of you got a promise from a previous season. Man, you haven't seen that thing budge, not one little bit yet. We want to pray over you this morning. Or maybe some of you are walking through a season of affliction this morning. Man, you just want some prayer. share some encouragement this morning. So they're going to sing. We're going to open these altars. I'm going to invite you to come if you want to come, but especially like junior high, senior high, college age. I just want to pray over you this morning. Let's sing, Brandon. Hi, my name is Brian, and I'm the pastor at Generations Church. Thank you for watching our service. If you're a guest, please fill out the contact information at gctlh.org/connect. Please know it's our desire to provide ministry to every age, starting at GC Kids Junior, our nursery program, all the way through our senior adults that we call teenagers. We also have many ways that you can be involved at Generations Church, one of which is our small groups that we call Connect Groups, or you can find your place of ministry in one of our serve teams. Please know that we appreciate you watching, and we hope to see you in one of our services very soon. If you have any questions about our church or want to respond in any way to the service, please feel free to message us at info@gctlh.org. God bless you, and thank you for watching.